My name is Mo, and I am the founder of BoardsbyMo here in Boston.
And my name is Hannah, and today we're going to walk you guys through on how to make a BoardsbyMo charcuterie board.
Whether it's for an anniversary, a holiday, a birthday, or just a night in, we're going to teach you exactly how to assemble your very own charcuterie board. So follow along and enjoy. But first, you need to pour some wine. So don't forget that part. It is the most important part of creating a charcuterie board. Cheers. We're gonna need a few things. Hannah, wanna walk us through those?
All right, so first things first, you guys are gonna need a cutting board. That's your main tool. You're gonna need that. Ours already have our meat and cheeses on it, so you can sort of see it here. But you're also gonna need some knives. We have a chef's knife if you need that, a skeleton knife or a cheese knife, and we also have a wire cutter, which we will walk you through how to use all of that. Also, you're gonna need some small bowls and medium bowls to put a bunch of fun different condiments in. And then you have other plates just to get ready with all your other fillings.
Whether you have an actual board itself, you can absolutely use that, but if you don't, you can also use a tray, a platter, a wooden cutting board, really anything that's gonna be able to fit all your cheese, meats, and all of the fun stuff that we're gonna add to the board. We have a marble board right now. This is one of my absolute favorite boards to use. It looks really classy. It's also extremely heavy, but it is one of our favorite ones to use. So when we start to make our board, we always start with our bowls or ramekins and we build around that. So today we have fig jam that I'm gonna put in one corner. And then in my other bowl, I have our honey. So I have a cute little honey dipper here. And I'm gonna go ahead and place this on the other side of the board. And then last, we have our olives. So olives can be a little runny and a little messy sometimes. So I always like to put them in a bowl so to keep them contained. And I'm gonna go ahead and put that on one of the other corners right here. So I'm gonna now build around the three bowls that I have, and I'm gonna go straight to my cheeses from here. One rule of thumb that I have is I like to start with the largest cheeses and then go to the smaller ones from there, just so I can make sure I have enough room for everything. One of the best things about a cheese board is that you can have a variety of different flavors, textures, and you can try so many new things. And a lot of that comes with different like hard and soft cheeses, cow's milk, sheep's milk. You have so many options and variety to choose from. So today we have 5 different cheeses. We have a brie, we have a goat cheese, we have a cheddar, a manchego, and a Gouda. Rule of thumb on your soft cheeses. So brie and goat cheese, you don't have to do too much when it comes to cutting these cheeses. You can actually just kind of leave it as is sometimes because they can get crumbly, they can get a little bit messy. For your goat cheese, you can actually leave this in a log like this if you would like, or you can take your wire cutter or sharp knife if you don't have one of these, and you can just go ahead and cut these into small squares. And then once you've done that, you can kind of stack them on the board and kind of design it a little bit here. So a lot of your cheese board is gonna just come with a little bit of creativity, and you can build it however you want. So whether you wanna stack it, you wanna fan it out, you wanna leave it in the log, is completely up to you. So now that I have my goat cheese out here, I am going to go to my next soft cheese, which is the brie. So if you have a circular wedge of brie like this, you can honestly leave it just as is if you want. Sometimes to make it a little bit easier for people to go ahead and grab, little pieces of brie, I go ahead and I cut these into small triangles. And I can use the wire cutter, just cut it in half again, and then 2 more times. And then I'm actually gonna leave it in the shape that it is in right now, and I'm gonna leave it circular, and I'm just gonna place the whole thing on the board. All right, so now we have our soft cheeses on the board. I'm going to move on to our manchego. So the way that this is shaped is actually perfect for triangles. And this is one of the easiest cheeses to cut because it's a semi-hard cheese. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and cut really, really thin triangles. And again, this makes it extremely easy for your guests to just grab one off of the board instead of having to worry about cutting it themselves. Sometimes harder cheeses can be a little bit intimidating and people don't even want to touch them if they are in too big of a chunk. So we are going to go ahead and take these little triangles And we're actually gonna design this really pretty. So we're gonna go ahead and put them kind of crisscross here on the board and alternate it that way. And it makes just a really pretty design. And now you've added another little bit of dimension on the board and a little bit of variety that way as well. The next thing that we are gonna jump into is actually gonna be our cheddar. So this is always a fan favorite. Everybody loves cheddar. If you're worried that someone isn't too adventurous, you're not sure if they're gonna like some of the cheeses on this board, you can't go wrong with the cheddar. So I'd always recommend getting a safe cheese like a cheddar to use on the board. So for this one, I'm actually gonna cut these into little cubes. So this is again, just a super easy type of cheese to pick up and grab. Some people don't even need a cracker or salami or anything with it. So I'm gonna cut these into little cubes. And then I'm actually just gonna stack these on the board wherever I can find a little bit of space. And these don't all need to be in one area. You can actually put little clumps of cheddar wherever you can find it. So I'm actually gonna do 2 areas with cheddar. And then lastly, we're going to cut our Gouda. So Gouda is a very versatile cheese. It's another one that usually people like a lot. So this is a giant piece of Gouda. So I'm actually gonna cut this one in half. So now I have a smaller triangle and it makes it a little bit more manageable on the board. And so now I'm gonna go ahead and place just this on the board as is. And the good thing is I can take some of the cheese knives that I have, and when I'm presenting this, I can even cut a little bit itself so people know how to eat it, and I can just leave it on the board like that so people don't feel too intimidated and they know exactly what it's supposed to look like. So as you can see, I have a few leftovers. Sometimes it's a little hard to get all the cheese on the board, and that's completely okay too. You can always refill as you go, but we need to have room for all of the other good fillers, and Hannah is gonna show us how to get the next best thing on the board, which is the actual meat.
Today we have 3 different examples that we're gonna show you how to put on ours. We have a prosciutto, a thin sliced salami, and then a thick sliced salami that we'll show you guys how to cut. But now that the cheeses are on here, we get to work around it and kind of have some fun as it all comes together. So with prosciutto, a lot of people get hesitant on how to put it on because it's so thin. The best part is you can have fun and it's really thin, so it can just kind of lay on the board. So we're gonna do ours in more of a clump. And one thing that Mo and I love to talk about is that you're gonna move your board around a lot because there's so many things that we're gonna put on. So with the prosciutto, we're just gonna lay it nicely. Don't put too much, so we'll put a little bit less. And you guys can see how thin it is. But you just want it to fall nicely. All right. And with that, we're gonna move on to the thin sliced salami. A lot of people are hesitant on how to put this on, but there's so many different ways to fold it. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna fold it in half and start to lay it on the board. So as you start to do it, it kind of makes a fan, which matches the way we laid the cheese. And you don't have to use all of it. We like to do just a few slices here and there. And again, you can have some fun and start to move things around. Cheddar's getting in the way. All right. So I'm gonna do it in 2 separate spots, kind of to match the cheddar. Then we're gonna move on to the thick sliced salami, which people get scared of seeing because of how to cut it, and we're gonna show you. So the salami is in a kind of diagonal angle, and you guys wanna follow along with that when you cut it. And you don't want it thin because obviously it's meant to be eaten thick, but it is a little difficult to cut. So you wanna be very careful when cutting it. Always make sure you have a sharp knife too. And some of these salamis can also have a little bit of a kick to them, so you want to keep in mind that it can be a little spicy. And I'm also going to fan that out as well. I'm going to move your cheese around a little bit. And kind of want it to hug around some of the other cheeses. And again, you don't need it to be perfect, but you want it to have filled and put it all together.
So now that we have all of our cheeses and our meats on the board, we are gonna fill in every little spot with some of our favorite accompaniments. So we have dried fruit, we have nuts. I always like adding something chocolate covered. So we have a plate of all of our favorite things here. So we're gonna start with Let's start with the chocolate-covered or yogurt-covered pretzels. These are one of my favorite things to add. They go great with some of the honey. They go great with some of the cheeses. So I'm gonna go ahead and just stack those right here in between some of the meats and cheeses. So again, don't need to use everything if you have a little bit too much, but it's a great way to fill in some of the blanks. So next I have almonds. So always having something with a little crunch works really well as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill in here. And the best part about some of these fillers is that they break up some of the colors too. So if you see here that I have a white cheddar and a brie, and there's a lot going on in that area in the same color scheme, I can add a little filler to break it up. Next, I have some dried apricots. So these are some of my absolute favorites. So I am gonna put those here in this back corner. And then because I also have persimmons that are a similar color, I'm actually gonna put those on the opposite side of the board. So I can see a little bit of orange on all sides and they're not all clumped together in one spot. So I'm gonna go ahead and stack those here. And then I have some chocolate covered raisins. Again, one of my absolute favorites. So this one, there's a lot of the same color going on in this back corner. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some chocolate covered raisins right here. And then my last filler here is gonna be dried cranberries, and we're just gonna find a little spot for these. So perfect, we're gonna put them right next to the honey. And if you're wondering how many more things I could probably fit on here if I really wanted to, I definitely could rearrange and try, but I think at this point we have a really good assortment of savory, we have sweet, we have dried fruit, we have chocolate, so we really have anything that you could possibly want all on one board.
So the last two things that we like to end with is a little bit of garnish. So with the brie, we like to just put a little bit right on top to add some color and just add something to the top. And then we'll take a few pieces and just put them, you know, where there's some holes and kind of just fill it in with some color and make it all pretty.
So you can use anything here for garnish. If you have a little herb garden, you can use rosemary, you can use thyme, you can use mint, you can use basil, anything that you can find around. Or if you have access to edible flowers, that is also a really great addition to your board and really brings it a little bit of light and color as well.
And to finish off our cheese boards, we're gonna finalize it with the crackers, but we like to keep those on the side so that they stay really crisp and fresh. With that, there's a multitude of options that you can choose. So we have a butter cracker and a crisp. Those are our personal favorites, but we also encourage you to get maybe a loaf of bread and put that on the side because it goes really well with the cheese plate.
Now you have made your very own charcuterie board at home. And before you dig in, we have one more thing to share with you. If you're wondering where we are right now, we're at Vinovations. BoardsbyMo has partnered with Vinovations to pair all of these amazing meats and cheeses with their wines. And to tell you more, we have Cassandra from Vinovations.
Hi everyone, my name is Cassandra. I'm the wine manager here at Vinovations. We're teaming up with BoardsbyMo to pair our boutique wines along with our artisanal ingredients on their charcuterie boards.
Thank you so much for joining us today and enjoy your charcuterie board. Cheers, ladies.
Cheers.